thank you so much for coming on. You're such a fascinating guest. I love talking to you because also the range of your interests and passions and commitments and expertise. So I want to talk to you actually. We're going to get to the gubernatorial race and why you decided to run
Sure.
for mayor. You have a course that you're teaching. It's about Malcolm X's speech, the ballot or the bullet. Can you give us or about the concepts outlined there, right? So can you give us a brief summary of the speech, its relevance to today, and also the course?
Yeah. And it's always good with you, Katie. Really enjoy the conversations every time that I'm on. The short version is that we're doing. Oh, I'm doing a weekend intensive, and I've done a few of these. We did one called Panther Power, where we actually looked at Huey P. Newton's revolutionary suicide, the Black Panther, his book, the Black Panther Party's um, uh, combination of mutual aid, direct action, and electoral politics, the efforts to do community education on how to hit refresh on the Black radical tradition and the way that we utilize the lessons from it in our contemporary political moment to move our movements forward. Because while some people only encountered me as somebody running for vice president with the Green Party, or maybe are encountering me as a Green candidate for governor in the state of California, my movement commitments are deeper than just the electoral ones. So this we did another one that was on France Fanon and the psychology of revolution, right? About how we undo the traumas of empire and Zionism and the way that we like find ourselves, um, you know, uh, morally and personally situated to like effectively strike. So this one is rooted in Malcolm's 1964 speech, The Ballot of the Bullet. And it's designed actually to directly address the questions that we were just talking about with Esteban. So Malcolm in 64 said that we are going to knock on every door in Harlem and we're going to register every Black face behind every door, not as a Democrat, not as a Republican. Malcolm was understanding that there was actual electoral strategies that were revolutionary, but they had to take place out of the context of the duopoly. And similarly, Kwame Ture, similarly, Hugh P. Newton and Bobby Seale and other Panthers utilized electoral political strategies as part of their overall Black revolutionary agenda. So the idea is basically to take Malcolm's 1964 Ballot of the Bullet, which he delivered twice, April 3rd in Cleveland, April 3rd of 1964, and then April 12th in Detroit, and use this basically as a way to branch out on how we can utilize electoral political interventions to actually make radical change. And that's also kind of what it was at stake in the conversation with Esteban about Zoran. The fundamental issue of trying to execute change inside the Democrat Party is that they are going to try to make sure that it is reformist and not revolutionary. And we're bearing witness to the passing in jail of a great Black revolutionary, a great Muslim intellectual, Imam Jamil, al-Amin, formerly H. Rap Brown. And he was another one of these advocates and partisans for truly revolutionary forms of organizing, and that reformism wasn't going to get us free. So while I'm running in an electoral political system, I am not running as a reformist candidate. I'm running as a revolutionary candidate that actually wants to end capitalism, end imperialism, and white supremacy. And I believe that there are tools that the Black radical tradition has given us that will allow us to make the interventions that need to be made against Zionism, against ICE, against the contemporary iterations of these perennial problems which have plagued oppressed communities, indigenous communities, Black communities, and other oppressed communities here.
I was going to ask you about the gubernatorial race, but I also did want to bring this up, and you brought it up. The death, well, the life and death,
Imam
who,
Jamil.
yeah, who was no, who formerly known as H. Rap Brown. So, can you tell us a little bit about him?
Yeah, I mean, one of the people that I've regarded as a hero throughout my life. I've been blessed to get to know his son Kyrie. Been blessed to become friends with his lawyer Maha Al Kolali, who struggled for years to try to get the charges against him overturned. And just to be clear, so Imam Jamil spent the last couple decades of his life serving time for a murder of a police officer that another man confessed to, right? That it is
Unreal.
plain and clear that he was not guilty of this. And there was a 44,000 page file that the FBI had on him going back to before his conversion to when he was HRAP Brown as part of the COINTEL program that was designed to destroy exactly the kind of Black revolutionary political principles that I'm now, trying to teach about. So for me, Imam Jamil is a hero, both in his HRAP Brown iteration, right? I think he was the fifth chairman of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, which was also the organization where Stokely Carmichael, later Kwame Ture, got his organizing start. He ended up becoming the Minister of Justice in the Black Panther Party, so he was connected both to that SNCC legacy and the Black Panther legacy. He ultimately ended up serving time falsely in the late 1960s. Ultimately, was converted to Islam while he was in prison, and he became, and this is really, really important, and I'm really glad to get the opportunity to say it. He became, just incredibly well respected as a Muslim scholar and Muslim intellectual, just on the basis of his like wide learning, deep understanding of the Quran and the tradition, and also stayed 10 toes down in that Black radical tradition. So he opened a mosque in the West End in Atlanta in a community that was, plagued with all of the disinvestment, redlining, and all of the other things that our communities were plagued with. And he, literally like helped clean up the community block by block, became this extraordinary community leader, as well as being a political organizer and prominent Muslim intellectual. And then that's when they locked him up, was when he was in the midst of this incredible second act in his organizing career. And we lost a great man. And we had decades of his, life and teaching and social impact taken away from us. He died of cancer at the age of 82 in a federal prison. And for me, as a Black Muslim, you know, I won't claim the status of revolutionary, but somebody that's been inspired by revolutionary teachers. For me, this is a tragedy, because I feel like collectively as a society, we did not do enough to free Imam Jamil. And so Allah had to free him. God had to free him. And he's now free for the first time in decades.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because and apologies that I was wanted to make sure that I got his full name correct. And I was looking at the one of the articles I had on him, and it doesn't literally on ABC, it doesn't say once what his chosen name is. It says former Black Panther leader H. Rap Brown dies in prison hospital at 82. And other places, at least when they have that in the headline, they say what his name was later in life. They don't even like I did an Apple F, it doesn't appear um anywhere near the top, at least the way that headlines are written, and whether it's not naming the later name, um not indicating that he was set up, not indicating that, you could read a whole article without knowing that someone else had confessed to the crime.
It's similar to how when we recently lost Assata Shakur, another one of these great Black revolutionary figures, she was essentially prosecuted again in the press for the attempted assassination that ended her in prison, because that was a hit on Assata Shakur, and she was serving time for a crime that forensic experts made clear that she could not have committed, right? So there has been this effort to silence in every conceivable way in life and in death
Right. Yeah,
those
exactly.
exponents of this revolutionary tradition. So when you told me, when I got a text from you, you were like, I'm hoping you'll be able to talk about Imam Jamil. I was like, God bless you, Katie Halper, because that like that there's just very few opportunities. And I recall when I was in the presidential race, like when I got called on to Democracy Now! For the first time, it was like 2 days after Marcellus Khalifa Williams was executed in Missouri, another Black Muslim man, whose life was taken away by the state. So I had to go on and just make sure that I said it, just so
Yeah.
that it wasn't something that was simply disregarded in the media cycle and moved on. Like I won't be able to attend the funeral service, which is taking place in South Florida, in Miami tomorrow. I have a special needs son, and I have primary care for him tomorrow. But I'll be there in spirit. And I, I would just ask, that anybody that's hearing this take some time to learn about Imam Jamil al-Amin. He was an extraordinary human being who laid down his life in struggle for liberation, not just of his people, but of all people.
And here's an image. There he is. So obviously that is one. Um, a lot of time had passed since those two. But yeah, I mean, just another example of someone who um, was. I mean, whether it's they're set up and then executed, um, given capital punishment, or they die in jail. This is such a pad, or they're killed by the state, either like through assassination, execution, or in this way, forced to die behind bars. And who knows how much better medical care he would have gotten outside of prison. Although honestly, our healthcare system is so abysmal that you don't even know. Like he could have honestly gotten better healthcare in prison than he would have gone out of prison. But it's obviously subpar. I mean, that's an
Yeah,
indictment of.
and for those of us, there was a great YouTube and website channel, Students for Imam Jamil, Free Imam Jamil. There were a lot of us that have been involved over the past few years in amplifying the messaging about getting him out. In the past few months, the really messaging was just about get this man the care that he needs, get
Oh
this
yeah.
man home so that he can transition in the presence of his loved ones, like that he was never
Oh,
guilty,
yeah.
and he's certainly not a threat in any way at age 82 with a massive tumor on the side of his neck, that's not being treated properly. Like they don't just want to kill Black revolutionary heroes, they want to honor them, and that comes both in life and in death.